Everyone, Pam Gregory, astrologer. I'm going to be speaking to you today about the new moon coming up in Leo on the 16th of the month and broadly about the second half of August. But just before I get to the astrology, a lot of people have been writing to me and asking for a knee update. So just to say, I am just overwhelmingly grateful for the healing I've been sent. It's been very humbling to feel that much love, to be honest. And some of you might remember that after tearing my meniscus and various surgery last year, that by autumn I really couldn't walk across a room without sticks. It was extremely painful. And yes, most certainly the blood plasma injections helped a lot until I tripped in early April, and that put me back a bit. But absolutely, all the healing I've been sent has made a huge difference, because I'm taking it very gently day to day. I do a lot of knee exercises. I daren't go out cycling too far in case I get stranded, so I don't cycle outside, but I've got a static bike inside. Lots of knee exercises. And if I stick to flat, even ground, I can walk for an hour, a little more, without sticks, and being very careful. Nothing dramatic, nothing quick, no twists or lunges. Or the hills are harder, particularly downhill becomes very painful. But if I take it very gently day to day, I'm doing remarkably well, considering the amount of damage, structural damage in the knee. So I'm still managing to avoid major surgery so far, and that's really down to you, all of you who've sent me healing. So, thank you a millionfold. If it's easy for you to continue to send, absolutely fabulous. But only if it's easy, because there are other people in greater need than me, I'm aware at the moment. But still, yeah, I'm still wishing in that complete miracle, because I am somebody who very much believes in miracles and have experienced several in my life already. So, but thank you for all the love. Now let's talk about the astrology. Just one thing I didn't mention in the last update, because it was just already such a full video, was what's known as the Lionsgate portal. And because I'm filming this on the 1st of August, I do want to mention this. This is a portal which is exact on the 8th of August, but the whole energy covers from the 28th of July until the 12th of August. But the 8th of August is the peak. And this really stems back to ancient Egypt. And because in ancient Egypt, this was round about the time. This is when our sun, our spiritual sun, which is Sirius, Orion's belt, and the earth come into alignment. That's what this is about. And in ancient Egypt, this was the time when the river Nile rose. And this was a very much welcomed event, because it meant that it was fertility and abundance, water to irrigate the crops, fertility, abundance, new life really coming back to the people at the time. So this is something that they always welcomed and very much celebrated. But in a spiritual sense, this is a gateway to galactic energy. It's really a portal to higher consciousness and greater spiritual awakening. And many of you I know can already feel this energy, and it's being much discussed on social media. So really welcome it in, and do find time on the 8th to meditate if you can, to take time out. And but it's going to be very strong this year, and it's going to be very strong next year and in 2025. So it gives us an opportunity. We're getting these peaks in, solstices, equinoxes. Lionsgate is very much a portal to higher consciousness. It's going to give us another potential leap, another real jump in our consciousness, to give us a very different perspective on our reality. So just wanted to cover that, because I'll be putting out this video before the 8th. So August is unusual because it has 3 lunations. It had the full supermoon in Aquarius on the 1st of the month. We've got the Leo new moon on the 16th, and we've got another full supermoon on the very last day of August on the 31st, which I'll be talking about in the next video, because otherwise there's just too much to cover. It's very interesting to me that really just a few days before that Aquarius supermoon. And remember, Aquarius is ruled by Uranus, and it's very much connected to the galactics and to aviation. It's kind of out there. That we had a lot of UFO disclosure in the US. We had a series of US congressional hearings about these disclosures, which is very exciting. I mean, we know that we're made of stardust. Even Professor Brian Cox says that. And as I said earlier, he's not a fan of astrology, but we came from the greater galaxy, and we are beginning to step back into our galactic citizenry. So for this news to come out, I think is really exciting. And there may be many people whose work you follow who channel galactic beings, whether it's the Pleiadians or the Arcturians or whatever, and they come through with a great deal of love for us, because as I understand it, in the evolution that the Earth is going through, this is a real key, a crucial part of the evolution of the greater galaxy. So that's why the galactic beings are taking such an interest in where we're at as humanity, and very much supporting our evolution, which is really wonderful. And for many people, we can feel that love coming through. So what I'm going to do now is share my screen for the new moon, because there's a lot to talk about here. So as always, a new moon is planting a new seed somewhere in your chart to set a new intention for what you want to manifest in your life. So see where 23 degrees of Leo falls in your chart. And if you don't know, you can download a free birth chart from our website. Go to the link below this video, get a 2-part video series, and that will take you from zero, a standing start, to understanding where these points fall in your chart with each update I do. It isn't a personalized birth chart, remember. It's a teaching. They are teaching videos for you each time to find these points in your chart and begin your astrological journey of what it means for you. But these sun and moon are in Leo. And here in this chart, we have 5 planets in fixed signs and 7 planets in fire. So this is a very, very dynamic chart. Now, on one hand, 5 planets in fixed signs can make us extremely determined, tenacious, won't give in. But I think there's also a strong sense, particularly with Uranus in Taurus, that we are really bringing in some very different belief systems, some very different thinking about what we may have accepted as beliefs in the past. And this new moon really supports that. 7 orbiting bodies, they're not all fully planets, some are asteroids or dwarf planets, but 7 of them does suggest that it's going to be quite a hot summer in the northern hemisphere. So Leo is the sign linked to confidence, a creative vitality, a love of life and exuberance, a natural leadership, being a hero in your own life, being a leader in your own life. And it's very much about, in its best expression, about you wanting to shine, and also helping others around you to shine. Because when you shine your light, that's exactly what you're doing. You're infecting other people to do the same. It's the sign that I most link to sovereignty, actually, of all of the signs, and really encouraging us to step into our sovereignty in a big, big way. And of course, this is what this ongoing T-square between Pluto and the nodes is about. This ongoing T-square between Pluto and the nodes. Remember, normally a south node isn't shown in a chart, but this is around our choices of fear versus love, of victim versus co-creator, and Leo is most definitely on the sign of co-creator. But I've talked quite a lot in the past about Haumea, dwarf planet, being one of the strongest symbols we have for New Earth. Beautiful mythology. She's highly creative and regenerative, and And with her majestic the Macaulay, she could produce wild food from the land, even if it had been laid waste. She's an incredibly regenerative principle. And I just want to quote the words here from Alan Clay. Alan Clay is the chap who runs the Dwarf Planet University with some superb research into many of these dwarf planets. And he's talking about Haumea as the higher octave of Neptune. And Neptune, of course, is our psychic sensitivity and its unconditional love and connection to source. But what Alan Clay says about Haumea, and I think it's really beautiful, is Haumea takes the psychic opening of Neptune and turns it into real psychic connection with the oneness of our existence and the magic of being alive. Wow, isn't that beautiful? The magic of being alive. And this sacredness, our sense of interconnection to all living beings, to nature, to the earth. This is what we're going to begin to rediscover as we move more fully into New Earth consciousness, which is here already, as we know. So let me point out some of the important things in this new moon chart. Now, a couple of things I haven't actually put in here, but just to point to. Black Moon Lilith is at 24 degrees of Leo. Black Moon Lilith is linked to the orbit of the moon, and I won't go into the technicalities, but essentially her symbolism is about wild, instinctive feminine. Totally, a little bit like Eris, very much divine feminine, totally uncompromising, and very much stands for freedom and justice, as does Eris. So she's conjunct this new moon. And in addition to that, reinforcing these themes is Uranus, our planet very much representing individuality, speaking your truth, is exactly by degree square to the sun and moon. So this is really reinforcing this theme of stand in your authenticity, be the real you. Uranus transits always highlight what we have already outgrown and are fully ready to step into. So this is encouraging us, particularly with the Leo energy, to be brave, to be courageous, to really be authentic and different, even if it runs up against the collective that you have been part of in the past. This is the time to really step out, and that's very, very important. But to do it with love, because Venus is conjunct the sun and moon here, Venus and Leo. And this potentially is, together with Black Moon Lilith, is actually quite rebellious and revolutionary energy. It's very interesting that this new moon falls on the sun, S-U-N, of India and Pakistan. And Pakistan, of course, is seeing huge protests and pushback by the people against their what they perceive to be an overpowerful government. So it's very interesting. So we'll see what happens to India and Pakistan in particular at this new moon. But again, staying with this theme, and I haven't drawn Eris in this time, but Eris is at 25 of Aries. So just here conjunct this north node. So that means that the new moon is trine to the north node and trine to Eris. So remember, Eris, another aspect of the divine feminine, feisty street fighter, stands up for certainly protest, but justice, truth, equality, everybody needing to be heard, everybody having a voice. So between Black Moon Lilith, Uranus and Eris, we have some very clear themes, and particularly because Eris is conjunct that north node, it's directing us, yes, this is your future collective destiny. This is your path of soul's growth for the collective. This is what you're meant to be expressing. And that conjunction between the North Node and Eris will become exact in September, October this year. So it's going to get stronger. Uranus, as always, you probably can play this bit yourself. Uranus square to the sun and moon. Uranus is also linked to earthquakes. Remember, we've got 2 full supermoons this month, so that raises the potential for seismic activity. It's about earthquakes of all kinds, political, financial, literal, volcanoes, shocks, surprises, again, revelations. It's about truths coming to light. It's about the galactics. It's linked to aviation. It's linked to power grids, cyber attacks, that kind of thing. Now, Uranus becomes particularly strong, not only at this new moon, because it's exactly square the new moon by degree, but on the 29th of the month. 29th of the month, and we will feel that because it turns stationary retrograde then. And whenever a planet, particularly an outer planet, moves stationary retrograde, its symbolism is magnified. So we're going to have a lot of Uranian energy towards the end of the month, and that's running right into that other full supermoon on the 31st, with much stronger pull on the tectonic plates. So I think seismic activity, extreme weather events, all very heightened at this in August in general, around the new moon and also into the end of the month. But I think galactic disclosures could continue, and it's absolutely the right time for those to happen. I mean, Pluto is going to move into Aquarius next year fully for 21 years. We are going to see a lot of galactic contact, galactic news coming out, and just more and more of us, stepping back into that remembrance of that's where we came from, which I think will be, truly wonderful, actually, and very, very exciting. This is such a unique evolutionary opportunity that we have right now in current time. We're in this crucible of change. It's not next week, next month, next year. We're right in it right now. So don't miss it. It's also Uranus, both now and later in the month, particularly in Taurus, to do with unstable geomagnetics. And of course, we've had a lot of that. We've had absolutely kind of exponential number of solar flares. As I've mentioned in the past, you can follow these very easily on spaceweather.com. We are currently in solar cycle 25, and that was supposed to peak for the sun's activities in 2025, but scientists have now pulled that date back to late 23 or early 24. And just if you follow the number of kind of solar storms, M-class, X-class flares, they are, remarkably multiplied from just 2-3 years ago. So there's a lot of instability around the geomagnetics. Now that, in turn, is feeding Gaia's evolution, but also humanity's evolution. So although it's very disruptive and destabilizing for us because we're having to assimilate these new energies so quickly, nevertheless, these are key ingredients, new information from far galaxies for our evolution. New ingredients in the cake, let's say. Okay, so other things to focus on here as well. There's such a lot to talk about here. We have Jupiter trine to Mercury here. And this is a lovely aspect for big ideas, thinking big, big philosophical ideas, and very much ideas for the future, bigger horizons, linked to earth, agriculture, that kind of thing, because it's in Taurus. And it will also help anything to do with any project you're working on that's very detailed. Jupiter will expand the mind with this trine to Mercury, which is wonderful. But the Virgo side wants to make us very exact and precise and right in getting the detail right in any kind of project you're working on. But Jupiter can kind of expand the mind out and give us the big picture as well. So it's going to be good on detail, but also good on the big picture. And this may be also, I think, very helpful because the mind is activated here because Mars is conjunct Mercury. So this is going to be particularly good if you're working on anything which is to do with practical service to others, which is what Virgo is very much related to. or health. Virgo is also related to health and nutrition and good diet, good food, that kind of thing. So it's very helpful for all of that. The other thing is this is actually forming, I don't know if you can see this here, an Earth grand trine, because Uranus, and remember Uranus is very connected to the future as well, along with Jupiter, is trine to Pluto. That trine becomes exact 5 times between 2026 and 2028, which is very fortuitous for us in terms of a creative blossoming with a lot of innovation. But it's all Pluto is also trine, as is Uranus, back to Mercury and Mars. So this is a wonderful equilateral triangle, if you like, a grand trine in Earth. And this, I think, is about really starting to build new structures for new Earth. Uranus in Taurus is another very good symbol for new Earth for us. So these may be related to physical structures because they're all Earth signs, may be related to forms of agriculture, food growing. It may be related to systems in some way. I mean, Mercury likes to get everything categorized and running like clockwork, things in the right place, but it's also very, very related to health, as I say. So we could have new ideas coming in around foodstuffs that can help our overall health or our digestion, but it's also related to building new physical structures for new Earth. This could be more housing, more community projects, that kind of thing, Uranus. The other thing which is important to say is that Mars is widely being opposed by Neptune here. Now, this, in one sense, in a less positive sense, Mars is our goal setting, our point of focus. And when it's in hard aspect to Neptune, Neptune can kind of dissolve. So we can kind of lose focus, we can lose the goal, we can lose energy and enthusiasm for whatever we're working on. You know, we don't have the enthusiasm for it anymore. It just sort of dissolves. But this is excellent for any type of spiritual action. Now, this can be literal spiritual action like yoga, tai chi, qigong, that kind of physical activity. But it also can be physical action, again, in terms, could be related to being of practical service and food. It could be helping out on your local soup run or working in a food bank. You know, practical service to others and helping people with feeding, as it were. So let's now come back to Leo energy, because I just want to remind you, and I may well have mentioned these things at previous years about the heart, but it's so important. We are birthing new Earth from our hearts more than our heads, because we're birthing it from love. And again, I had a wonderful interview with Veda Austin last night, and I'll put the link for that below this video, and the importance of love in our world and what she's discovering in her water crystals. But there's a very respected institute in America, that many of you may have heard of, called the HeartMath Institute, who do a lot of work into the physicality of the heart, the physiology of the heart, but also the spiritual aspect of the heart. And they, from their testing, know that the heart's electrical field, we are electrical beings, remember. And isn't it interesting? Uranus is the planet of electricity, and it's in tight square to the new moon in Leo, linked to the heart. Leo is heart energy more than any other sign. Anyway, the HeartMath Institute talk about the heart's electrical field is approximately 60 times greater in amplitude than that of the brain, than the electrical activity created in the brain. So the heart sends much more information to the brain than the brain does to the heart. And remember that we infect other people with that toroidal field of the heart. And in particular, and again, Veda talked a lot about coherence yesterday, when we are in a coherent emotion, like love, joy, peace, gratitude, compassion, those are harmonious, coherent emotions. There's a sort of consistency, a regularity to the energy. And the Heart Math Institute research director, Dr. Roland McCratty, defined coherence as the state when the heart, mind, and emotions are in energetic alignment and cooperation. He said it's a state that builds resilience, physiological resilience. And that means that you are better able to cope with the challenges in life, the difficulties, and there isn't a person on this earth, I don't think, that isn't having some challenges right now. And so what's really, really important, and I don't think I've said this clearly enough recently, but it's really important that we are aware of what's going on in the world. We are aware of the really terrible things that are going on in the world in many respects. You know, the war, the death, the disease, the poverty, it's horrendous. And I'm never, ever suggesting spiritual bypassing and don't be aware. I'm very much saying be aware, but don't negatively engage your emotion with fear, panic, anger, anxiety, hate, any of those things, because then your own field becomes incoherent, becomes kind of jaggedy, like interference on the television set, where your sympathetic and your parasympathetic nervous systems are out of sync. It's all jaggedy and jumbled. And that actually produces erratic heart rhythms, as well as an incoherent state in your heart's toroidal field. And again, you're infecting other people with those energies, you know, very directly, because we can't cut off our energy, our frequency. There's no boundary to it. So our mastery, this is so important. Our mastery comes in, yes, being aware of the awful things that are happening in the world, but despite them, staying in a state of positive equilibrium. Despite knowing that those things, staying in a state of positive equilibrium. And this is what the great spiritual masters through the ages have said. You know the difficult stuff, but you know, that's the mastery. It's not just spiritual bypassing. That's easy to do. Not going to look at that at all. That's easy. So I really want to clarify that. So think of your heart as a transmitter, because it is. Your heart, very much linked to Leo energy, is a transmitter of love to the world. And that's how we infect the collective. And that's how we make a change in the world for the better. The more of us that do this, the more of us join into that energetic tsunami of love, the faster this shift towards a more beautiful world is going to happen. So just looking slightly further down the timeline, just a couple of other things to touch on. I'll stop sharing my screen right now. On the 21st of the month, we have a quincunx, exact quincunx between Pluto and the Sun. That could be around about that day where you see some power play, either in the world, somebody, you know, might makes right, somebody throwing their power around, either in your own personal life or in the world, because that day we also have this is a repeating aspect, but nevertheless it coincides on the same day, the moon square to Pluto and opposing Eris. So it's highlighting that, where is the power? Is it coming from the individual or is it coming from top-down structures? On the 22nd of the month, we have an exact square between Venus and Jupiter. Venus is at 15 of Leo, Jupiter at 15 of Taurus. So see where those planets fall in your chart, different houses, because either in one house or the other, it can very often bring some joy, some success, some love even, some abundance into your life that's, transitory, but to be welcomed. Very nice. 23rd of the month, Mercury starts to move retrograde, 21 of Virgo, and actually by the end of August, we have 6 planets retrograde. Now, it's been typical over the last few years that we have the outer planets moving retrograde at this time of the year. And remember, Uranus also on the 29th moves retrograde, as I've just been talking about, until the 27th of January. So this is a time, although there's a huge amount happening in the world, it's certainly not going to be dull, it's going to be extremely fast moving in the world, but it's also a time when we are going to be called to go inwards, to reflect, to be introspective on all that's been happening in our lives and how well has that worked? What do we think about how those planets, when they were direct, have played out in the world, our part in that, and how we may want to shift our actions, our behavior, our belief systems, our frequency, our point of focus to make a change, particularly starting from, I'd say, September, going into eclipse season in October, when more of the planets start to move direct, and we really do gather momentum, I think, in a very different direction. So be aware of those sort of longer term patterns. But coming back to Leo, and really, really, not just for this new moon, but really try and bring yourself back to the heart as often as you can, and live from the heart in your emotions. Try and live from love as a state of being, as I so often say. Drop into your heart as often as you can. Imagine you're breathing in and out through the heart. And another lovely, incredibly simple technique is to imagine that there's a little fire or a little flame at the center of your heart. And if you can bring your point of focus to that flame, to that light, and that point of absolute stillness, that is a beautiful place to create from, to create your reality from. You know, really, stillness is magnificent because it brings peace and it brings coherence to our energy field. As often as you can, of course, you can get that in nature, bare feet on the ground, etc. But thinking of this Leo energy and sovereignty and stepping into our individuality in a much bigger way, there's a beautiful quote, and I actually used this in my first book, but I still absolutely love it. It gives me goosebumps every time I read it. And it's a quote from the author Martha Graham. I really would like you to think about this because it's so right for all I've been saying about this new moon. So this is from Martha Graham. She said, there's a vitality, a life force, an energy, a quickening that's translated through you into action. And because there's only one of you in all of time, it's true of your birth chart too, remember, this expression is unique. And if you block it, it will never exist in any other medium, and it will be lost. The world will not have it. Wow. So this is a big encouragement for all of you that tend to pull back, that hide your light under a bushel, that say, oh, I'm not young enough, pretty enough, smart enough, rich enough. None of that matters. You're unique, and you have a unique essence that you were created to. If you take it often helps to take the personalization out of it. That takes the nerviness out of it. And just think of yourself as a unique essence that divine intelligence wanted that contribution to be made to the world right now. And that's why you incarnated. For that unique expression that is you in a meat suit, that contribution to be made to the world right now as part of our evolution. So don't do yourself a disservice. Step into your mastery, step into your light, and shine your heart's brilliance and your love to the world. Because that's what's going to make a difference. I hope that's helped you. Even more to talk about in the next update when I'll cover the full supermoon at the end of the month and then the first half of September. So if you'd like more information about my books, my teaching videos, my long monthly newsletter, just check out my website, pamgregory.com. Thanks so much for listening, everyone. Lots of love and bye for now.